this is true, and let's consider that people is actually too caught up in history. Why is this not harmful? This is because again we learn from history, and history is how humanity developed. And therefore, we think that there's no where people is getting too caught up on history. The previous speaker mentioned about how information will be too favored in our side. However, we think that information will be actually more biased in their side because without correct history and correct information, people will try to only favor their country's culture and people will only try to favor their country's tradition. We think that information will be more biased outside the politician's case, as in inside government's case. Moving on to our first argument about history is what we learn from. One core important value of history is that we learn from it and by keeping the records, and we develop by learning from our histories. Even if it was a big mistake we made from our history, we actually learn from it. Now, since we have learned history class in school, we all know that wars always lead to failure, and it is the best if we make sure that we don't make wars happen. And it can also be considered in smaller things, such as we learn how to effectively grow food and agriculture by old records. We know the wisdoms of our ancestors from these past records. Burning down all of these past records or resetting ourselves and our humanity to the beginning. We think that this will actually lead to more chaos, not a peaceful society. Then all the development we make will be no use in their case. Because if we keep making these mistakes, then we won't be able to develop any cases. Moving on to our second argument about how the countries will lose their colors. Now, old records creates culture, tradition, and characteristics of each group and country. Without these records, countries won't have their individual special colors, and they will all be the same. Now, does being same mean unified? We do not think so. We think that being different and understanding and respecting each other's differences is what makes our world unified and peaceful. Furthermore, for certain countries, especially developing countries, culture is pretty much all they have, and culture is the most important value. We need to protect them, and therefore we are very proud to uphold. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that incredible speech. Team Affirmative, you now have 1 minute to prepare.
And scholars, let's now put our hands together to welcome to the center of the stage the second affirmative speaker.
My speech will start in 3, 2, 1. Decisions that were made, mistake we shy away from, and moment we hated. Yes, all in past then, they're done. We're in the present now. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, worthy opponents, and lovely teammate. I am the second speaker on the affirmative team, and we strongly and proudly stand here by the motion that the best way to ensure a unified, prosperous, and peaceful future is to burn down records of the past. Now, moving on, I would like to move to my first rebuttal against the first speaker of the negative team. She stated that we learn from history. Yes, I agree that we learn from history, but history are written by people. And guess what? People are biased. A villain can be made to be a hero by ignoring the negative aspect of him or her, and vice versa. Now, leading on to my second main point. to the past build grudges, and in this case, could lead to war. Conflicts or disagreement that were made, ideas, nation, or speeches that clashes still stand because people aren't willing to let go of them. For example, right now, the Cambodia and Thailand border ceasefire, where one side claimed the other attacked them first. But the people on both sides, soldiers, people who live near the border, children, men, women, everyone, they're the injured one. They're the one that grieve, cries, bleed, sweats, tears, and blood. Because of what? Grudges. Ancient stone that were built near the border, considered a historic heritage, was drawn by the French when they colonized Cambodia. If Thailand had let the fact that the line is already drawn and is on the map of the global world now, and is all the ancient heritage site that was built was also put as Cambodia's historic heritage by UNFSCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, as Cambodia's historic site. A crisis of worry, chaotic of mind, people on both sides, fear in society and hatred in humanity, communities, divides. And you're asking, but this is about records. Yes, but are memories also records? Aren't grudges and feelings tied to conflicts also records? Thank you.
My older alpacas.
Really? Is that it? Scholars, let's put our hands together for the second negative speaker.
We support you guys.
Panel, look. Unity and harmony does not come from avoidance of your wrongdoings. In essence, if we truly want to drive change and peace in our world, then there is nothing more important to do right now than to realize our past and start the process of forgiveness. Hello. In my speech, I'll be doing a total of 3 things for you. Firstly, I will clash with all of my worthy opponents' pillars. I will move on to presenting our side's 3rd pillar, how, in essence, where individualism and identity will be lost as a whole. Then I will move on to a conclusion, showing you what both worlds look like on both sides, and showing you how side opposition has firmly won this debate. Now, I'd like to start with clash. So firstly, over and over, they kept talking about how history is all of this thing, where history is what drives grudges, and how history is what drives conflicts, and how people that are caught up on history are consistently going to be at each other's necks. But I'd like to say that is not at all true. Now, they try to combat us by saying, oh, history is biased. People are biased. History is written by people. But then we would like to say back to that, well, sure, one person might be biased, but when history is written by multiple different people from multiple different worldviews that have multiple different perspectives, it starts to seem a lot less biased because we have different views and we have different perspectives rather than the binary one that side proposition tries to give us. Now, over and over again, they talk about grudges, but I'd like to say, once again, oh crap, well, second speaker has slightly started to go off topic as we are talking about burning down the past records. Now, they talk about our memories and all of these things, records, and we say, no, they are not. And then they say, well, if we hold grudges right now, like, we should be able to move on from them. And then we would like to say back to that, no, we will not. Think about it. If we hold a grudge right now, why are we going to let go of it 100 years into the future? If anything, won't that just become even more biased? Won't that grudge become even more prevalent in the new world when there are no accurate historical records to tell us about what really happened? Won't stories get blown out of proportion, and won't the world be facing misinformation left and right instead of what they propose as an idealistic utopia? No, panel, I think not. And overall, all of their case stands on one major flaw. They assume that people would be able to move on. But here, I will now move on to delivering our side's third pillar. Now, in essence, what does it mean to be an individual? Well, you as a person have lived your life doing so many different things and experiencing a lot of different things that no one person has ever done before in your life as well. All in all, I believe that if we forget about the past records, what it means to be you as a person also disappears. What happens about your culture? What happens about your identity? Where does that all go? Gone. Because they've left alongside the fire that has burnt down the entirety of history. These lives that people have fought so hard to live are now completely forgotten. And everything that everybody in your life has worked for is now eradicated. Because that's what Side Proposition's world looks like. One where people don't matter anymore. One where everything that you've known in your life disappears. And on our side, we firmly disagree with that statement. We believe that it is the opposite direction we should go, and that is the worst case scenario to ever come true. And so, for all of these reasons, I firmly oppose this motion. Thank you very much.
Ayaw niya pag-asuki.
Thank you very much. We have reached the halfway point on the stage, so scholars in the audience, a nice time to remember that after they have finished, we will be looking for your additional contributions, so keep those in mind. Affirmative team, you have 1 minute before your next.
Two, one. Bias, fights, grudges, unnecessarily long arguments. Isn't it just so frustrating to have memories of these fights nag at you all the time, even when you're trying to repair bonds? This can change if we burn and let go of the past. Honorable panelists, fellow debaters, and worthy opponents. And family. All these people are such important figures in our lives. So frustrated and your bond weakened for a long time? Well, I certainly have. By letting go of the past, we can make the amount of time needed for reconciliation much shorter. This can not only reduce grudges, like my second speaker has said already, but also foster a sense of peace, joy, and more opportunities to experience good times and memories. I'll be now going on to my rebuttals. The first speaker has said that humanity has always learned from history. Although we agree, what if the things we learn bias and negatively impact our future? What if this hinders our ability to have an open mind? What if this prevents bonds being repaired? Is it really a good idea to hold on to the past? We say no. The second speaker claims that we have said that history can hold grudges. However, we aren't saying simply that identity and historical records can cause bias. We're saying that past fights and petty little arguments are the problems. He also says that we'll be forgetting the pain and deaths in war. But what if these deaths and this pain and this bitterness are actually the things that cause tough emotions and conflicts between countries? And this is exactly why I believe that our team has won this debate. Our point stands and theirs has fallen. Thank you.
The most effective way to destroy people is to deny and obliterate their understanding of their history. A quote from George Orwell, the writer of 1984, where a book describes the future of a dystopian society where people do not have freedoms. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, honorable judges, worthy opponents, and fellow teammates. My name is Raymond from Hsinchu County American School, Zhubei, Taiwan, and I will be the third speaker of the negative team. And my teammates and I will strongly deny the resolution that the best way to ensure a unified, prosperous, and peaceful future is to burn down records of the past. Now, before I start my arguments, I'd first like to rebut the affirmative team's third and second speaker, where the third speaker said that if we just forget history, then two sides which have continued to have grudges and conflict will easily reconcile with each other because they've already forgotten what's happened before. But reconciliation does not come from silence. It comes from acknowledgement, cooperation, and understanding through both sides. What they're trying to represent is that they want to bury the past and not to understand it with people who have conflict, and not to reconcile with kindness, with acknowledgement, and with connection with other people. And now the second speaker of the affirmative team has stated that both sides have grudges against each other, which will let them into conflict, and if we just forget the history, then they would no longer have grudges and no longer have conflict. But that's also simply not true, because what the entire team is trying to support is a form of historical revisionism, which is the definition of reinterpreting the past, which is to forget stuff and to bury stuff into the ground. And that is a result of people fighting and having conflict. But historical revisionism is also a tool of authoritarian rule, of dictatorships, and of leaders who have done horrible things in the past, like Adolf Hitler burning multiple historical records which did not support the Nazi Party, and Mao Zedong's Great Leap Forward, which burned multiple historical records and caused millions of deaths and divide in the country. Now, the entire opposing team is trying to support the fact that historical revisionism is the way to move forward. But that's not true. The way to move forward is to acknowledge each other's conflicts, to acknowledge each other's mistakes, and to connect with each other, and to come up with a solution to modern day conflicts. And that's why, for all those reasons, my teammates and I will strongly deny the resolution that the best way to ensure a unified, prosperous, and peaceful future is to burn down records of the past.
Now, attention, I'll be beginning my speech in 3, 2, 1. History has its eyes on you. That is a quote from Hamilton, a famous musical. Now, good morning, fellow panelists, my beautiful opponents, and my teammates. And of course, to my wonderful audience. My name is Martin Culture School Jakarta, standing firm for the motion that the best way to ensure a unified, prosperous, and peaceful future is to burn down records of the past, must and will stand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's get started with, first of all, my rebuttals. And after that, I'll explain to you why I sang a Hamilton lyric. Now, the first speaker and the second speaker stated, we know about our ancestors from past records. Identity will be lost forever. What it means to be you will disappear. Culture, tradition, etc., etc., etc. However, I think that the opposing team has defined the word records differently and wrong. You see, the outrageous claim that they made is that records are in the moment. Records are in the now. That you cannot acknowledge someone if you don't have records. However, second speaker, although I do agree with you in some way, you see, records are the past. Of course, acknowledgement will happen in the now. Of course, acknowledgement would have happened. Simply that once the conflict is over, we forget about it. Not that we forget about it in our minds. However, there is no need to document it. Because what we want is a unified, prosperous future. Not a future where we keep clinging to the past. Let's move on. The second speaker also stated that you're completely wrong. You think that everyone will agree to move on from our past? Yes, because you know what? So like Hamilton said, history is a river, ever eternally flowing. History has its eyes on you all, and history will remember every single word you said. Every single thing you have ever done will be remembered in history, just not in our records. And that is okay. That is good. One second, Matt. If we, and history will keep flowing, even if we humans aren't dipping our fingers into history. It doesn't matter if we don't have these records. What we want is the future, not the past. Now, the third speaker stated that, let me give you an example. Hey, I think your hair is bad. Ugly. Sorry. No, you're really cute actually, I'm really bad. You see, that was forgiveness. However, we don't need to record that, do we? It already happened and now we're on good terms, right? Exactly. You see, ladies and gentlemen, you need to understand
that history is something metaphysical that humans won't be able to cling on forever. Like my son Peter stated, holding on to the past can grow grudges. And like my third speaker stated, it's important to let go of the past for bonds. The bonds that we have together. The bonds that you made within this world non-stop competition. Isn't that? Now, let's move on. If acknowledgement was so easy, then why haven't we gained this unified, prosperous future yet? The third speaker stated that we need records for acknowledgement, but we don't. Because we have records, we have acknowledgement, but we don't have world peace. We have wars, we have crimes, we have disputes, we have everything. So one way to do that, one way to get it better, one way to fix our world is to let go of the past that holds us so tightly. Is to let go of the past that we think is so important because you know what? Let's reimagine the future together. A future where no one has conflicts, where everyone can get together. Now when all said and done, please, honorable educators, my lovely audience, and also my opposing team, understand what I said. A